recording
Hi,
it.
everybody!
Mike and James are here again, this time with your Shoretrooper or Tankdriver basic abdomen assembly. This tutorial is also going to partially apply to the Rogue One Stormtrooper if you need it in the meantime. All right, I'm going to be covering really just our newer style that has the separate details. If you have one of the older style with the molded in details, it applies just as well. Most of our suits have been coming with this since at least this past May of 2019. It's your extension and your, well, let me grab the kidney while I'm thinking about it. I knew there was one part missing. This is your extension. Essentially is going to go like this. But the first thing we do with this, like this, is go ahead and split it. Hand me my razor knife. That's the one thing I'm missing. So we're just going to split it down the middle. This little score and snap. And set those to the side. So we have our differences in the abdomens here. It's the same abdomen, but we're going to be gluing the details on in the end. So I'm going to discard this for now and just start working on these. Now, when your kidney comes, it was already in one piece like this. This one was pre-split. And you can see there's an angle on the sides because that's how they are supposed to marry up here on the side.
The camera can see that.
Well, let me get my position too. So you can kind of see we've got a groove to follow, and you can follow that groove straight on around. So go ahead and position it up and see where you are. You may need to take some off or level it up on the belt sander. I'm actually pretty pleased with the way that looks. It's a pretty straight cut, so that doesn't need any belt sanding. So as usual, our tools are sandpaper, and we're going to glue it together with super glue and accelerator. So the surface is being glued. It will be sanded. I didn't do any pencil marks on this yet. I might do a pencil mark just so I know where to put my glue so I don't waste too much. And this is the first step you're going to do after the basic trimming and sanding of all these abdomens, is just go ahead and put these on and then fit it to yourself and see how much of this extension that you're going to need while being able to use the trauma plate as an extender, because we're going to be putting Velcro back here and on there, so you'll be able to have some wiggle room. Whenever I wear my armor, I like to make it a little bit tighter and then put it all together, make sure it's still Velcroed apart back here. But I get it a little tighter and girdle it up from the bottom so it sucks in my gut a little bit and helps my posture and my back while in armor for a long period of time. But we'll get into measuring and how to assemble those in a minute. So both sides are sanded. I'm going to line it up again just to make sure I'm happy with it. And I got a couple of clamps down here. There we go. Clamps. The thumb scissor punch. You got to get the full thumb. Okay. No man can touch a clamp without being able to do that. At least no Futurama fan can't.
You've got a lobster claw. You got to do it.
Really, mine is still more for thumb scissor punch. Thumb scissor punch. It wouldn't be that big of a.
He got
screen time. It's just the deal with thumb scissor punch.
Constable Zevio did get screen time.
Look, I got the Topps trading card at Denny's of thumb scissor punch, and I was so excited.
I remember the day you came
so
to
excited
the shop with that card.
I was like, oh, if they're gonna make a card out of him, and he's gonna be a fun character, I hope he has something good in it. Good.
That just split.
Well, what a piece of junk. Brought to you by Harbor Freight.
Literally just.
It did literally split. Well, I'm not gluing it back together. Throw it away. It was made in China anyway.
Good God.
There. So I do have some pencil marks now for where we're going to put the glue. And, you know, I'm going to get really liberal with the glue on this one. Just like totally
this particular
liberal.
section is it's part of the build that's going to see a lot of flexing. Every time you take your abdomen on and off, that's going to flex a lot. So I would recommend gluing pretty heavily because you don't want your entire abdomen suddenly splitting open. So,
like, if I don't love my super glue so much, this is definitely an ABS glue situation where you can use ABS glue on both sides and a bunch of clamps or magnets, and that would turn out absolutely spectacular. Do me a quick favor and sand the edge of that with some 120. I see some, yeah, I see some burrs. Just don't want to make them a permanent resident.
There you go.
There we go.
Nice.
I should have done that before.
That's part of the
glue down.
process, part of the build.
Yeah, go ahead and clamp me up there. Thank you.
Pinch a finger.
There you go. No, you're fine. I'm going to walk it down so we don't get a big bubble. There we go. And I'm going to use my hands and just extend it and push.
Yeah, when you clamp on these, you kind of have to. Yeah, that
because it can bow.
Put your own pressure onto.
And since I'm out of hands here that you're aware of, James is going to go ahead and give me a little squirty squirt. There we go. And oh, that hurts so bad. And a bit on the inside too. There we go. And that joins these sides together pretty dadgum permanent. All right.
Top clamp slipped off.
Yeah, these aren't the best for pressure. The metal ones down there are a little bit better for that. There we go. There's the one side. And after we do the final assembly, I come through and round these over. But I just don't even bother getting into that until we're done. These are shell parts and the basis of what you need. Go. And the opposite side. It looks good. Well, let me hand it to my son Luke for sanding these, because I did not inspect them before assembly, and he sanded all these a couple of weeks ago, and he did a very good job. I'm very impressed.
Gold star for you, Luke.
Gold star for Luke. He got brownie points. That just means I'll actually let him eat at home for another day, because that's how family business works. There we go. Oh, speaking of which, my son just pulled up right now.
You already sanded that side, right?
Yes. Now, if you want to get really brave, you can pre-squirt your other side. That can be a positive or a negative. I've had mixed results with it over the years, so...
Yeah, I've found more often than not putting the accelerant on one side, like, it stops the glue from being able to get a good bond with that side.
Yeah, sometimes it turns out good, sometimes not as good. Yeah, go ahead. I think I got a good spot. There you go. And angle it up. Walk it down. And we get Mr. Squirty McSquirt out.
Okay. go.
All right. So, since this is actually a client build, his hip and stomach measurement was about 32 inches. That's pretty small. And he is 5'10", skinny, thin build. So that's the measurements that I have to start estimating now based off of these extensions. If you were doing it on yourself, that's really easy. So you go ahead and fit it to yourself, and then you'll see how much of a gap you may have left in the back.
This is where you can pencil it in. Under there. If you've got a helper like me,
It's always best to do it two-man if you can.
Pencil those so that when you take it off, you know where to line those back up. So, and that lets you get a good solid, overlap on your trauma plate.
Right. And since he's skinny thin, actually, where is my tape? My purple tape. It's around here somewhere. There it is. So just to get a quick rough estimate on him, because we have all this room to play with. I mean, this is like 6 inches, I think, 6 1/4, something like that. I don't know, his or her measurements. I can never remember. Look at that. Oh, actually, yeah, 7 1/2. Just shy of 7 1/2.
7 inches in internal.
Yeah.
dimension.
So yeah, you got about 7 inches of play in there. So just to get a rough idea, I came around here on the outside measurements, and we're at, squeeze it together, 38. Yeah, he's definitely skinny. But in this case, he's actually pretty much good to go. What I'll end up doing is cutting away a very good amount of this. And all we end up needing is a little wedge.
2-inch overlap.
And then we have all this extra shim material that can be used for other things. So if he was a bigger guy like me, we'd end up using a little bit more, but we'd still have a good bit to cut off. And at that point, we're going to use our favorite word, butt join.
Yeah, it's the word of the day.
Word of the day is butt join. So by butt joining, what we would do is we draw our pencil mark here, we'd take our measured piece out, and we'd butt join them together. So really, you got to think we're dealing with a bigger piece. So our butt join would be there. So imagine it's, for a bigger guy. And we'll butt join these two together and then fill that seam if you have to. And if you fill the seam, you can use regular Bondo if you need to. Our preferred chemical of choice is Evercoat brand Polyflex. I've got a bottle of it. It's just kind of disappeared on me for a second. And we've covered that in our first order backplate tutorial, the Evercoat Polyflex. It's worth the $45 that you get for the bottle if you're going to be building a fair amount of armor. And it will last forever if you keep it in good conditions. It's basically just flexible Bondo. So we'd be doing a butt join there. Him, not even going to worry about a butt join. We are going to pretty much leave him as is. And he's going to have the flexibility to go that wide or that wide, all on the same system.
It gives them about 4 inches of play.
Exactly. Lots of room to play with. And you never want to fit your armor to your skin anyway. If you fit it to your skin, it's just going to be more uncomfortable. It's going to be too tight, and you're just going to wish you didn't.
Even if your undersuit is like a bodysuit or something, fit your armor over jeans and a t-shirt. It's just going to be
always. I can't express enough, one of the most comfortable sets of armor I ever wore was Republic Commando from Polymer Armory. I'm already a big guy, but that suit was made for big guys. I was able to pad every single part in that suit, and it was like floating inside your armor. It felt really good, and it was really one of my favorite sets to just wear. My second vet's the Death Trooper, because even though in this horrible Florida heat, wearing all that black right in the sun can be terrible, but you have all that black padding, and then you have armor that's really loose without a lot of closed connections, and the closed connections you do have are adjustable. So, pencil mark that in, just so we know where to sand and to glue.
Basically sanding right up to the edge.
Yeah, I'm sanding right to the edge. I just like pencil marks. It's me. It's a habit. It's part of being OCD. And if you do this for a while, you just know what works. Now, to talk about this extension more, this was started with our Rogue One TK, but it really came off of our original Shoretrooper. And what we used to do with all of our suits before was we'd take this trauma plate and fill it with EVA foam and super glue and just Velcro it to the back right here. And sometimes EVA glue just doesn't stick very well, and you're just finding yourself constantly re-gluing parts down every couple of troops. Yeah, it would do something. I mean, sometimes you'd get lucky and get a really good one, and well, whether it was hot glue or super glue, it didn't matter. It just turned into kind of a maintenance thing. So brought this back into play, and oh, I'm not looking back. It makes it easy. Plus, we got all the extra bolt shades and extensions, so it almost makes it a universal fit. And I built a full Rogue One Stormtrooper for Mr. Stubbs, who was 5'4" and 200-something pounds, I think, and turned out great. That's just versatility of armor design.
Did you say Tubbs?
Yeah, his name was Malachi Stubbs. Stubbs.
Okay.
Did I say Tubbs?
No, I thought you did.
I may have said Tubbs if I did. I mean to say Tubbs, but
one of the guys in my last unit, his name is Tubbs, and he was a little short dude, probably, yeah, like 5'4", real tiny guy.
Well, I remember him specifically. Not only did I do the build, but you know, just a name like that and having that kind of a stature, Stubbs. It's like, okay, I haven't met you yet, but I've seen your measurements. I can already see the nicknames, but real nice guy. Sent pictures immediately whenever he got his armor in, and just one of those guys that I think fulfilled a dream, like many of us.
You want to clamp it?
Nah. You could clamp it, but nah, no real point. Go for it.
Get that middle. There you go. That way it's not bubbled up.
Get it in my face! Right in my face! There we go. Ah! 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 That would never work for my what beautiful, beautiful backside. Ever. Ooh. I'm again, him being 5'10" and skinny thin, you lucky jerk.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, you are just the prototypical perfect Stormtrooper size. You will fit in anyone's costume just fine.
Lean it towards you. There you go. Let it run down in there.
All right. That is the basic portion of it. And let's see, even on me, how close do we get? Close?
We could actually fit you
Yeah,
this if
I mean, if we had to, we could, but we gotta leave that room. If it even does turn out to be a little bit big for him, you know, the alternative option is to join them back here.
Yep.
And then put your trauma plate right over it, and you're good to go.
That's
split apart. But
with this particular design on the abdomen, what a lot of people do is they'll do Velcro here, they'll do the hook side here, the loop side here. You can always put another loop side here that lets you overlap that 100% if you need to.
Exactly.
And it still works the same way.
And it helps with resale value. If you need to sell your set of armor, hey, it's adjustable.
Yeah.
You know, that's wonderful. So I really don't need this right now because I'm not going to do anything with this until after this suit is painted and finished. Okay, so we're not going to go over it in the rest of the video because this will be painted. But go ahead and run Velcro down here, your adjustability on Velcro here. We discussed about the seam filling. All you do is sand it. I really recommend painting. And that completes the basic assembly for the abdomen. So the next step is prepping the abdomen details. These are new and were recently added. I need to sand them down on the belt sander. So you can see the bottoms are raw and unfinished. All right, so we have our lovely new details on the abdomen. Here's the center. Wait, I have to remember. Yes, you're holding the left one. I'm sorry, the wearing left.
They're sized. Like you can't fit the fat one over here. I mean,
no, you can. I mean, they're actually uniform, but you'll have the flat here, and then.
I thought they were sized. I thought one was slightly larger than the other.
It's very uniform.
Oh, okay. Very
uniform. So what we're going to do with these is James is just cleaning up the resin print a little bit, making them a little bit prettier. I'm going to hit them on the belt sander and flatten it out on the bottom, and then do my favorite pencil marks and sand those areas and glue it. Okay. Resin. I actually do want to wash these. Boy, it would help if you sanded with the sanding side of the paper. Actually, we have Simple Green. Works even better. So I actually set up a washing tub.
Do you need a little water in here? One of those.
Yeah, a little water in that. Just fill that up with water is fine. All right. So those parts we were working on. Well, it doesn't matter. We're not ready for the washing yet. Let me finish sanding these parts and talking about them. Now, we do have options with the way you can sand these. You can sand it with a little cut line, a fill line in it. You can either sand them flat, or you can try to follow that curve so it sits on the abdomen. Either way is acceptable. You can get the plastic to flex, and it fits just fine. So, if you're dealing with resin parts, they're going to have mold release on them when they were cast. And the easiest way to get it off is with Simple Green. Brought to you by Simple Green.
This is the concentrate.
Well, it's all-purpose cleaner. It is concentrated. You can buy by the gallon and mix it up. This is just a regular bottle. It's non-toxic, and it doesn't leave any films or any residues. So I get super liberal with it. Squirt down the parts. Doesn't hurt anything. You can do it back in the shop. You can do it in the sink. Get rid of non-toxic things like this. And when you're like feeling the part, you can actually kind of feel the soapy residue of the mold release. Just go through and wipe it off. James got us some water here. Just gonna dunk it and rinse it.
Resin will try to absorb moisture, so you don't want to leave the resin parts sitting in a water bath. You can use it to rinse them. It's not the end of the world.
Or like acetone, you can clean the parts with acetone, but that can actually have adverse effects with the resin. If you leave it soaked in too long, it will actually start to melt the resin a little bit. I have seen that happen with some parts. So it's just a safe solution.
Well, when you sand off enough of the surface,
the mold release usually isn't an issue.
But these, you're not sanding, especially down in the grooves and stuff.
And they also have really flat surfaces on them too.
Yeah.
So on top of that, I'll go back over it with some like 150 or 220 grit, just to give them a tack surface for paint to even adhere to. Get some Green out the way. And bring the abdomen back up. Sure, it's mostly dry. It's just going to line up perfectly. There's really not much to this. So if for some reason you sanded it, take it and sand it over. Work it out a bit. So I'm going to put on the surface, and I'm going to put blue, and I'm going to go to the side. So now I'm going to have a big blob of glue straight up the top. And the bottom's already sanded enough. Well, I can scuff that. You don't want anything shiny. It will not stick very happily to shiny resin. And my rough up sands, I generally do 80 or 120. Hey. All right, so this is sanded, and we are going to apply yet more glue.
Oh man, that was new.
I'm working.
Rounded this one, that's what it is. Okay. I'm gonna sand this again. It's just round. What is that one?
Tankdriver. Yeah.
That was just rounded off a little bit too much there.
Gotta get YouTube famous. There we go. Oh, give me just a second. All right. And that is the front detail put on. And I'm going to pause this video for a moment. Oh, yeah, go ahead. All right, finishing up the last details of the abdomen, just gluing on the left and the right. They've been sanded flat. You know, works just fine. You don't have to follow the curve. So it's really easy. Make it look like a picture. He's just gonna pencil mark it on a couple sides there. That should do it.
Go ahead and pencil the other one off too. So.
Or not. Or not.
We've already sanded the back sides on those and the top sides. Well,
Well, he's gonna sand it a little bit more. Found another spot he likes.
well,
There
like
you
just
go.
the little lowered outside edge is a little bit rough. So the glue will be fine.
I just don't want it to run.
Well, make it sit in a chair.
Stay.
Good dog.
Sit.
The other side for
Yeah, I'll just do it from here. Should be fine and set. And we'll repeat the process with this side. Try to find the circle.
I need the Steve Buscemi eyes. Looks good to me. There you go.
Oh, somebody was calling me.
Oh,
Well, I missed that.
more that way.
See, you can,
More than I
get,
want.
you can get
More
away
than I
from
want.
everybody.
James, get out of there.
And there we go. There is the mostly finished abdomen. From here, do little things. Take your craftsman band, straight snips, and we're going to curve up each side. To make that nice and pretty, put it on the belt sander, a little bit of hand cleanup. And that is that for the basic assembly tutorial. Just don't forget your Velcro on your trauma plate, and you're good to go. All right, we'll see you on the next video. Bye.